5 extraordinary places on Earth, people regularly live past 100, full of energy, purpose, and joy. They call them the Blue Zones: Okinawa, Sardinia, Ikaria, Nicoya, Loma Linda. No miracle drugs, no extreme diets, just simple daily habits that keep them thriving. Stay with me because in this video you'll discover exactly what they do differently and how you can start making your life more Blue Zone today and live to 100. Meet Dan Buettner, who discovered these places, and he's going to show you how to bring their secrets into your own life. He will break it down into 3 powerful, surprising lessons from the Blue Zones, and the last one will completely change how you think about food forever. 1. Why natural movement beats the gym every time. 2. How purpose and rituals protect your body and mind. 3. Why their humble food is the most powerful health hack. In his podcast, Buettner explains, in every Blue Zone, people don't exercise, but they move every 20 minutes. They garden, walk, climb hills, and avoid labor-saving devices.
In general, people in Blue Zones don't exercise, which is disruptive to a lot of us.
That is very surprising to hear.
You don't see anybody doing CrossFit or Pilates or an elliptical in their basement, but they do live in places where every time they go to work or a friend's house or out to eat, it occasions a walk. They always have gardens out back. And typically 2 or 3 growing seasons a year. Their houses aren't full of the mechanized conveniences to do their work for them. They're doing their own housework and their own yard work and kneading bread by hand. So my team figures that they're moving every 20 minutes or so, but unconsciously, probably keeping their metabolisms burning higher and probably burning more calories than somebody who, works at their desk all day long and then thinks they're going to the gym at the end of the day. First of all, most people don't go to the gym at the end of the day as they think they're going to do. But secondly, it's not as good as spreading out the physical activity throughout the day. But I argue that gardening is probably much better than joining any gym, the best longevity exercise you could do.
And when it comes to purpose and stress management, Buettner said,
I've seen the studies that show that when you're gardening, your cortisol levels or your stress hormones drop. And it could very well be you get your hands dirty and you wipe your mouth and you're getting the microbiome. The other facets sort of fall into 2 categories. One is living your life on purpose, which seems soft and spongy to real scientists, but there's a pretty clear evidence that if you wake up in the morning with meaning, you're living about 8 years longer than people who are rudderless in life. And really the foundation of Blue Zones is their social connectedness. They tend to prioritize family. They tend to belong to a faith, believe it or not. And they're very careful about their immediate social circle. And you don't hear much about these things because marketers can't sell you anything. But really how you connect drives your behavior for the long run in powerful and measurable ways. And we like to talk a lot about how we connect in the Blue Zones.
And what he said about food, family, and community will completely change how you think forever.
I challenge anybody to tell me about one diet in the history of the world that's worked for more than 4% of the people who get on it after 2 years. So it's a great business plan, great marketing vehicle. You get people on it every year, but it's a bad longevity strategy because when it comes to longevity, mark my words, other than not dying, there's nothing you can do this month that's going to make you live longer in 30 years. You have to think about things that you're going to do most days for the next few decades if you really want it to work for longevity. If you want to know what a 100-year-old ate to live to be 100, you can't just go ask them because the people don't remember. So to get at that, we found dietary surveys done in all 5 Blue Zones over the last 100 years or so. 155 dietary surveys. And Tim, as you know, dietary surveys aren't perfect, but they're directionally correct. And when you analyze them, you start to get a very clear signal, or you see the same patterns. So we did that. And what people who make it up to 100, on average, they're eating about 90% whole food, plant-based. The 5 pillars of every longevity diet in the world are whole grains, wheat, corn, and rice, greens, and of course, garden vegetables. They all have garden vegetables. Tubers, interestingly. In Okinawa, about 70% of their caloric intake until 1970 came from one tuber known as emo, or the purple sweet potato, nuts, and the cornerstone of every longevity diet in the world is beans. And if you're eating a cup of beans a day, it's probably associated with about 4 extra years of life expectancy over less healthy sources of protein.
What are the rituals that I guess, that you do, for example?
First of all, take your TV or your computer screen out of your kitchen. I think you'll eat more intentionally with less stress if you do that. Eat together as a family, as opposed to with one hand on your steering wheel. Take a nap, a known stress reducer. Belong to a faith. I'm not a hugely religious person, but people who have a Sabbath, Jewish people or the Adventists, this idea of a sanctuary in time where 24 hours a day, they're putting their work aside and they're putting their busy social calendar aside and focusing on their God or focusing on their internal life.
Now he reveals exactly how to make your life more blue zoned.
How could you make your life more blue zone like?
Without having to move to a mountainous area?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the first thing is to shift away from the silver bullet mentality, which most of us have, to what I call a silver buckshot mentality. Silver buck means sort of a scatter pattern of little BBs instead of, it's a little self-serving, but I wrote a book called The Blue Zone Challenge, where I aggregated about 40 or so evidence-based ways for you to set up your kitchen, your bedroom, and your home so you mindlessly move more, eat less and eat better, and socialize more. And they tend to do, like in your kitchen, I'm a big believer that we're all on a seafood diet. We eat the food we see. So if on your counter, in America, we start eating a bag of chips, and we don't finish it, we put a clip on it, we put it on the counter. Bad idea. Instead, if you put a bowl, you go out and buy yourself the most beautiful fruit bowl you can afford and put that in the middle and keep that full. So when you walk through the kitchen, the default is fruit rather than the chips. There's actually been Cornell Food Lab did a study on toasters. Very little of what we put in toasters produces something healthy on the back end. So taking the toaster off the counter occasions people losing about 2 kilos after 2 years as opposed to those who don't. People who have plants throughout their homes actually move more because they're watering plants. There's little things you can do to nudge yourself into moving more. And I'm a much bigger believer in setting up your home, your commute, your social life. If your 3 best friends are obese and unhealthy, there's a 150% better chance that you'll be unhealthy yourself. So in other words, if your 3 best friends sit around and eat wieners and chips and watch TV, guess what you're going to be doing when you hang out with them? As opposed to friends whose idea of recreation is biking or walking or playing tennis. And it's not a bad idea to have friends like Tim who, love plant-based food. We think it's so hard for middle-aged people, but I argue the number one thing you could do to add years to your life is recurate your immediate social circle. Those 3 friends who you count on when you're having a bad day, or with people with whom you can have a meaningful conversation. Those people are going to have a measurable and long-term impact on how active you are, on what you eat. And it's a counterintuitive. Nobody can make any money off of you, but being very careful about who you let in the room.
If you enjoyed this, subscribe.